Hey everybody, I am Harry Kerbo, the Senior Director of CINC's Paid Social Media Marketing. Today we've got a lot of great information for you around Google's shift to AI overviews and how that impacts your business and how you can make sure that Google's crawling the information that you want Google to know about you so it refers you in the right AI overviews. We also talk a lot about CINC's launch process and the overall advertising strategy, where we're treading that line between getting you as many leads as we can, but also as many good leads as we can, and trying to work those two together. And also, Dan dropped some great 1950s terms today, so you won't want to miss it. Be sure to stick around. Thanks again for joining us. All right, cool. Well, people still coming in, but we'll go ahead and get started. So I, again, am Harry Kerbo, the Senior Director of Paid Social Marketing here at CINC, or Commissions Inc., as you see Dan's shirt back there. And I am joined today by Eric Robson. He's going to be our guest today for office hours. Eric, say hi to the nice people.
Hello, nice people. Yeah, I'm Eric Robson. I've been with Sync coming up on 10 years now, actually. I'm the director of new accounts for paid search as well as our display marketing. And we'll be discussing some of those things today, some of the things that I do to help get new accounts started and stuff like that. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Glad you could join us. As always, joined here by my counterpart on the search side, James Terry. James, you doing all right, man? Anything on your mind?
Heck yeah, man. A lot of yes to both, right? So for those that I haven't met, hello, welcome out. Glad you guys could join us this morning. I am James Terry. I'm the Senior Director of Paid Search over here at Sync. Um, and probably the person at Sync who's most grateful to Eric, because I used to handle all of the launches and the new accounts. And Eric came in and stepped up and has taken over such a huge responsibility and taken a lot of that off my plate. So I appreciate him, and he's done an awesome job with it. So good stuff. A lot going on.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and I do want to mention Eric. You may notice the name from an email you probably received. Is it Space Ghost Coast to Coast? Did you get that thing I sent you?
That's
The
actually from
hippo?
Harvey Birdman.
Harvey Birdman, that's
Harvey,
right, attorney at law. So anyway,
And
if
the niche
anyone
Adult Swim references already.
if that
25,
evokes any
20 years
mental
ago.
imagery in anyone's mind, that's what I think. Anytime I send an email, did you get that thing I sent you? But the email did have a special offer for clients that want to try out our brand advertising. We'll be talking about that some today, but also look for that email if you have not seen it yet. But the moment you've all been waiting for, the introduction. It's like when Hulk Hogan comes out. The introduction, topical, sorry.
Yeah.
See, we miss him.
I was always an Ultimate Warrior guy myself, and then Mick Foley. But anyway, the most handsome man in internets, Dan Lott. Hey Dan, he's
Yes.
the VP of Client Marketing, the founder of all this, two-time Inman Marketing All-Star.
Two
Dan
time.
Lott.
Two time. Yes. Good.
That could have been your wrestling.
Good.
Two-time, two-time. Work
Whoa,
on that.
whoa, whoa. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for that great introduction. Excited to be here.
I'm like Paul Bearer.
I don't know.
Anyone?
I don't know.
The
No,
Undertaker? Okay.
My wrestling stopped at like 1984. That was about it. When it was Hulk Hogan with Mr. T. That was back. That's when I lost that.
Oh, Mr. T. Yeah, all right. All right, cool. Well, so
WrestleMania 1.
Harry's working on the mustache.
check out our side podcast on the mat, where we talk 1980s wrestlers. So yeah. But Dan, I know Jimmy Hart. I know you have a new guide that just came out that you wanted to talk about.
That's true, Harry. Thanks for bringing that up. Actually, we created it together. It's a co-byline, so don't sell
And
yourself
it's
short.
yeah, yeah. I'm a servant leader, Dan.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that all you
So
want to say? You said you wanted to say something about it. I assumed there was more than
no,
that.
that would be pretty short. No. So what it is about, and I think I mentioned this last month for the people who were here last month, but I did a couple videos about AI overviews in Google, and Google, you know, everything we have to do is has to do with lead generation. Specifically, I'm focused mostly on the Google side, the search side, and so Google is changing what they're doing by incorporating AI. You already know this. You've seen the AI summaries. They're generating a lot of traffic to Google. Google wants to keep the traffic and put ads on there, so it's great for Google. These AI overviews are not going away, and I think that's something that you need to know, that like search has changed. Like over the last year, it has changed, and it's not going to change back. So one of the things that I think is particularly interesting is that I've been here forever. Eric's been here almost 10 years, and I think he's the youngest of the four of us.
It's the baby. Yeah.
So we've been here forever. And
It's just a baby.
so
I had to get that
our
out.
clients always would say, like, oh, I want to get organic traffic. And they would bring up blogs, and we would say, like, sure, go ahead and make a blog. That's great. That's fine. There's no harm to it, but it's not going to accomplish anything. Like literally, it would not accomplish anything because they don't get ranked. So, or your ability to get ranked is really hard with blogs. Very, very hard. And you don't want to write it either. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for very little rewards. One of the things we found with our doing these videos and doing all like the webinar and doing our white papers and just doing social media focused on videos is that you can show up in the organic search rankings if you do videos and you do develop a comprehensive social media strategy. You will show up, and it's not as much work as writing blogs, and you have to stick with it. There's a lot of you have to develop a strategy to it. And so the white paper I wrote with Harry just talks about some of the things from a real estate's perspective. Is like, we always talk about hyperlocal micro targeting, and you can do that on your own as a real estate agent. You can put together videos and social media posts talking about specific areas, which Google will then perceive you as an expert in that particular area, and if that area
Sorry.
would be like a neighborhood, something like that. So anyway, so that's what the guide is about. It's like how to do videos and social media to get you noticed by Google and have you rank in the AI summaries. One of the interesting things about AI summaries also is that people perceive them as being the truth. It isn't necessarily the truth, and you'll see on if you ever look at one of those AI summaries in the bottom left-hand corner, it says some of the stuff in here might be wrong. So it's like, great. It's like, here they present this as being the truth, and it's like, yeah, it's the truth, except for it might not be the truth. But either way, it's fine. It's making us money, so we're going to keep on throwing it out there. So you might as well be the person that they throw it to. Mention you, like if somebody has a question about a neighborhood, like a real estate question, they might say like, oh, some of the realtors, or like if the question is, what are some of the realtors serving this neighborhood? You could get mentioned, which would be like a huge positive impact for you. So anyway, that's what the white paper is about. I'm gonna actually talk about yourself.
I think a
I'm
key.
going to try to put a link to that.
I put it in there.
Got it.
Oh,
I'm
there
your
it is.
hostess with the. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Dan.
Yeah. So if you're
You know
interested
that?
in it, go for it. It'll be some work, not as much work as write a whole bunch of blogs, and you can have fun with it. So we like doing our videos. So
I
that's
think
what
part
I have
of
to
it,
say.
another part of it is the importance of, the captioning that or the descriptions on the videos, the headlines on the videos, depending on the network, the hashtags that you use. Um, I think recently, or I know, Instagram just made a big update about how their public posts are more searchable and findable by search engine bots. And so those results, potentially social media has always had an impact on SEO, but with that kind of, mentioning, you could potentially rank for reels that you're doing. And so I think, Dan, what you're saying makes sense because if everyone's doing a video about here's the US housing market trends. Oh, I need to send it to everyone. Thank you, Brooke. I'll resend that link. If everyone's doing videos about US housing market trends as a whole, there's a lot of noise there. The example that you use in the videos that you do, Dan, and in the guide, I think is North Springs, which is an area here. If you're competing to come up when somebody looks for North Springs or have that on your AI summary, there's less people looking for that, but you have a better chance of coming up because there's less people trying to rank for that too. So the guide, thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
The guide is definitely worth a read, My mom thought it was great, Dan.
Oh, she did. Oh, good.
No, I did. She didn't read it. I'm just kidding.
Maybe
But
next time. Maybe next
maybe
Wednesday.
next time,
We'll read
yeah.
that one.
I
That's
love
what I
those.
want.
I love those AI summaries because, like Dan said, like we all see it, and it's the masses, the public, like perceives it as the absolute truth, even though it says in the bottom, like, hey, this might not be accurate. And so basically, as a society, we've just decided to crowdsource what is the truth, right? Like, hey, people, here's what the internet is saying, but we get to dictate what the internet, what's out there, what we put out there, and what we want to be perceived as, at least right now, while that content is fairly relatively limited. So it's definitely the time to jump on that and try and get that information out there if it's something that you want, in the future moving forward.
Well, and then posting regularly is an important part of it because that encourages the bots to crawl your sorry, I just slipped into Quinn. I've really got movies on my head. I've got a as good as it gets quote too when I talk about let's go get another sweaty wad of money. All right, now I'm done. But anyway, posting regularly is what encourages the bots to regularly crawl your profiles, and that's what lets them see that information. And then comments on the post are very important because, and not just commenting from one side, but you commenting back, because the networks, Meta, LinkedIn, that kind of stuff sees that as meaningful engagement, which they want to keep people on their networks. They want people commenting on posts and finding things relevant. And if you look at the analytics in the back end, even posts that don't get all favorable responses, if you're making thoughtful comments back, um, that gets an engagement boost, and Meta interprets that as meaningful engagement, people finding value in the post, and they're more likely to refer it. So we did get a question from Brooke. Brooke asked, how can we post video on our CINC website? So there are options, I know, for custom landing pages to post it. There's also, I believe, some site templates that accommodate a video on the homepage. But then, you also want to think about things like load time. A slow load time, for instance, can penalize your site both in terms of the search engines and just in human behavior, of people loading it. So I think that's always a concern. The sync sites are built specifically to generate traffic into leads. So, I think that's a conversation worth having with your account manager if you're interested. What we're specifically referring to is posting videos on social media. So now feels like a good time. If you haven't followed us yet, go ahead. smash that subscribe button. The best way to support the work we do is by you liking this video. Those all work sometimes, but it's at CINC
Where do you do
Pro.
that? Where do you find those
At
links, Harry?
CINC Pro, at CINC Pro, yeah, it's at CINC Pro.
Yeah.
Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, even Threads, Dan, even Threads.
Wow.
So anywhere you want your sync, you can get it. But posting there regularly, and when I say regularly, I'm thinking, you know, 3 to 5, 4 to 7 times a week. Making sure you get at least 4 posts out there, I think can really help the algorithms to know to go look for
Well, that's a little daunting.
new content.
That, like what you're saying, like for a single person to post 7 times with like a video, that's kind of rough. Kind of rough,
Well,
Harry.
I mean,
Well, so
I
if
mean,
you did it
well,
like
you're
a
not going to
couple
post
times,
one
there would still be
organic
benefit to
video.
that.
You're not going to post one organic video, but I think as you start creating content, you'll get better and better at it. I think you could easily go, I mean, you mentioned this in the videos. You could go into one neighborhood that you want to talk about or look up a few records and come out with 6, 7, 8 videos, and that could be your whole months of content. So maybe it's maybe it's taking a little bit of time, not a full day, not a half day, I don't think, to film different things. And you can also, you can capitalize on trends. I mean, a lot of people are posting trending stuff to their personal TikTok already. There are things that make sense from a business perspective. But you want to mix in that helpful content. And then going back to your specific AI reference, the AI overview, if you want to rank for North Springs, when you do a video, talk about North Springs. When you when you do a title for the video on LinkedIn or YouTube, include North Springs. In the caption or the description, include North Springs, because that's the kind of stuff that that the search engines are looking at, and that makes it more likely for you to be included in the AI and to be found if somebody searches for that neighborhood. So
Yeah, those platforms really like consistency, and so it's a lot like going to the gym, right? If you go to the gym once a month, if you post once a month, you're not going to get spectacular results from going to the gym one time a month. But if you start going twice a week, you might start looking a little better, feeling a little better, self-image goes up, and you start realizing it's worth committing to 3 or 4 times and ramping up to that a little bit. So posting probably couple times a week, start getting a little bit of results, and you can decide, do I want to continue to build on that? Is it worth committing a little bit higher level, that kind of thing? But definitely, like, posting 3 times a year is not going to get you very far. I think we all know that, right?
Yes.
yeah, unless you're Taylor Swift, she's about to go on the Kelsey's podcast.
Yeah.
Early access. Dan, I know you're
Make an
excited.
argument that Taylor Swift.
I actually saw that. So yeah, that's big news. Big news. But yes, and then so the example that we use with
Yes.
like how Harry says like, oh, use the word North Springs all the time. It's like the phrase hyperlocal microtargeting. I just made it up a couple of years ago, and so but if you do a search like about CINC, you can see like in some of the descriptions, it's like, oh, CINC is an expert in hyperlocal microtargeting. It's like, oh, there you go. That's how it works. And so if you do lots of videos saying that you're an expert on a certain neighborhood, Google will take notice. So it's not rocket science, but you got to do it over and over and over again, repetition. So similar to how we're repeating the same concept over and over again right here. So I was thinking maybe we can move on because we have Eric. It's not often you can get an Eric Robson on a webinar. So
I have one more question that the answer will be, Amanda asked about coding HTML into an email template. That would be something I would definitely work with your account manager on. We could help you with questions around ad spend. But in terms of formatting an email into the CRM, definitely take that up with the support team. Or Matt Purdy, if you're out there. Purdy, you may be able to help with that. So, all right, that's it. Now you can go, Dan. Thank you.
All right. I was segueing into Eric. One of the unsung people at CINC in the CINC marketing department is Eric Robson, because it is the launching of the campaigns is the I think arguably the key part, because like if you do it wrong at the beginning, um like if you picked out bad areas, you can kind of mess it up forever. There's so much pressure on Eric doing what he does. I'd say that. Well, but he does like. But anyway, it is a really hard job, and dealing with volume and doing it like the time constraints. Like he'll be like told to like launch something in like an hour or something like that. So, Eric, could you just talk a little about kind of like the area suggestion? Because that's, I guess, just in general, people throw out like 20 different a list of 20 different areas or geos or schools or whatever it is, and how do you determine um which ones you choose, and how do you do it, and why do you do it? What are your thoughts on that topic?
Sure, yeah. So we definitely have some best practices when it comes to how you want to set up your lead generation campaign. We have been kind of coaching up the implementation managers during kind of the onboarding process for everybody to kind of make sure that we're um, meeting expectations and we're trying to attract leads from areas that each of you actually want to work. It doesn't do you any good if you're getting leads that are 2.5 hours away. Um, so what I specifically look for is implementation will kind of take the broad strokes. They generally want to see every market's a little different, right? So what suits people on average may not work in some specific scenarios, but generally we try to ask for maybe 10 to 15 markets. It's usually a best practice to have some variety in a new campaign. But we're all about trying to find that kind of happy medium of like having those hyper local targets like Dan's talking about is really great when you can attract those kinds of leads. The search volume is kind of the dynamic where we kind of have to balance like decent search volume versus like great lead quality. So, say somebody's working in like Houston, well, we can create ad groups for like Houston homes for sale, but generally speaking, that lead is going to be very high in the funnel, very early in their home buying process. They don't, maybe they're relocating or maybe they're moving across the state or something. So there's tons of search volume there. And that's not to say a search for like homes for sale in Houston won't generate a good lead. It's just some less serious buyers will also come in just through the nature of search. So typically what I'm looking for is a good balance of like getting search volume from areas that have a decent volume of listings on average. We have seen a proportional relationship between the number of listings and overall conversion rate for each of those areas. So the more variety there is, our kind of line of thinking is people have more choice, so they're more likely to stick around and engage with the site to narrow down what they're looking for. If we're directing people to a landing page for like a really specific neighborhood or like a street name or something, and there's like three listings on it, it's really unlikely to get leads out of that specific a market. It's not that it will never happen, but you can't really pin your entire campaign's performance on really specific areas like that. So my job is to kind of, amongst other things, tease out like which of the areas that are on that initial list are going to be viable. Again, implementation does a good job of kind of like giving the broad strokes of our best practices so that when they get to me, um, it can be straightforward, but sometimes, it does merit a follow-up conversation from myself, or occasionally a regional rep might reach out. If we have a lot of really specific areas and nothing really broader, because my sort of line of thinking is you don't want to be, kind of sitting on your hands as you paid for this platform, waiting for that one perfect lead and just ignoring all the other stuff. It's, you know, part and parcel to this kind of search is there is more work in kind of like looking through the leads that we're generating, finding the good stuff, nurturing them into sales. Um, it's not going to be 100% home runs all the time, but I want to try to make sure that we're striking that balance between leads that know an area well enough to search for neighborhoods, subdivisions, school districts, whatever it is, and getting enough volume so that you're not like going a week without a lead showing up.
One of the things that we have at CINC is that when Eric goes about creating the account, and this happened years ago, but it wasn't always this way. But we have this cool ad group creation tool, is what it is. And so when Eric creates it, he'll plug in the different areas and then press a button, and magically, it'll show how many homes are on the landing page of that ad. And why that's important, is Eric mentioned it, is the number of homes on the landing page has a very, very, very direct relationship with the conversion rate. Conversion rate being the kind of the chance that the person who clicks on the ad is going to become a lead. And why that's important is the conversion rate is one of the two factors in how many leads you get. So if the conversion rate is low, you're going to get very few leads. And we've over time, like we have one of the great things about CINC is that we have access to a whole bunch of data. And so we've downloaded like all the landing pages, and we figure out like how many homes are on each landing page. And then we do all this research to see what is the correlation between the number of houses on the landing page and the conversion rate. And it is a stark, very close relationship. Like if it's less than 10, your conversion rate is going to be much, 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 much lower. And that's just the way it is. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that we have 12 homes on our first landing page. So on our homepage, or on the PDQ page is what we call it, so that you can see like, oh, I want to buy a house in this little neighborhood. Okay, I've seen them all. I'm not interested. I'm gonna move. I'm leaving. So that's pretty much it. So Eric has to decide, like, okay, this person really likes this neighborhood, but they're not going to get any leads from it. So there's kind of that delicate balance. So if you just pick those 12 neighborhoods, you're not going to get any leads, or very few leads.
Well, and I think that's it. When we tell a client, no, we're not going to do this ad group or this target, it's not because we don't like you or anything like that. It's because it's not going to be a good use of your money because maybe there are too few listings or anything like that. I know for a long time where Bieber lived, we were hesitant to include, and the Kardashians, I think it was Calabasas.
Calabasas,
We were
yeah.
hesitant to include that in campaigns because so much traffic was people just seeing where Justin Bieber lived.
The cost per
And
lead was great.
most of it was me, James. Most of it was me.
Quality's not there for searches like that.
Yeah.
Very uncalled.
But if you watched the last office hours with Alvaro, one of the things he talked about was the difference in cost per sale, and that's what the balance that Eric's talking about is all about. The example that Alvaro uses is a Zillow example of 42% of a $12,000 commission is $5,000, somewhere in those lines. You have a $5,000 cost per sale just from that amount, before you start paying your agents. With CINC, our whole goal is that cost per sale is much, much, much lower than that, even though the leads may take a little bit more time to nurture. But once that pipeline is mature, you have an asset. You have your database that's converting leads and something that, can be passed on versus just buying from a vendor, I think, which is a very different thing. So sorry, Dan, did I cut in? Did you have more for Eric, or should I get to some questions that we had?
Let's see, what else was I going to ask? What about, like, how would you target a neighborhood if it doesn't really exist, or if it's just kind of like a made up concept? How do you go about doing that kind of stuff? How do you do, what are some of the cool stuff that CINC has that allows you to do this stuff, when this is one of the things that other search engines can't do particularly?
Maybe Buckhead in Atlanta is an interesting example.
Yeah. That
Like
one,
Buckhead the neighborhood versus Buckhead the city.
yeah, that one comes up a lot with people in the Atlanta metro that we have that want to target that area. It's, for those of you not in the know, it's where everybody in the Atlanta area wants to sell condos and homes and stuff because it's one of the priciest places to live around here. But there's also a actual city called Buckhead, Georgia, that's like
Very
12,000
different.
people, and it's maybe 2.5 hours southeast of here. So that's one of those long list of really like anecdotal little things that I have to know when I'm launching stuff. Again, about the neighborhoods in Los Angeles that really don't convert into meaningful leads and stuff. Knowing how to target the right areas, and I'll admit I can't know everything about every single market all the time. Sometimes we do have to have a little follow-up dialogue to make sure that we're getting the right area. But to Dan's point, yeah, so one of the things that makes Sync unique is other lead generation services might be entirely dependent on the MLS mapping that the IDX feed gives them. And that's the only way that they can filter things. We have a lot of different methodologies that we can use to target specific areas. So that's one of the things I look at in the launch process. So Dan's talking about listing counts show up for the different areas. If I feel like something seems really low, but it's on somebody's, requested areas, and for the most part, everybody kind of knows where they can sell homes effectively and where they've had business before. So it may merit some further investigation to make sure that, like, okay, if I'm relying on like a subdivision field in an IDX and something and nothing's showing up, it could be that, well, maybe most listing agents aren't identifying that area with subdivision. Maybe they're using the school district, or maybe there's some other field like a main area or something. All the MLSs are kind of different with how they handle the information. But another way that I can kind of do a bit of a sanity check is running just broad keyword searches through the MLS for wherever that neighborhood name shows up. Um, that might give me a better idea of where this area is, but again, maybe it doesn't capture everything. Maybe there's 7 listings out of 50 that are in an area that only have that neighborhood listed in the description for those 7, and we're missing the others. Um, so what we can do in that case, this also gets kind of more nitty-gritty, but we also have a way to actually like do a polygon map of a certain area, like certain neighborhoods and areas within like Los Angeles. One I was working on just last week was like that, where some of the listings might say something like Studio City, California. Well, Studio City isn't like necessarily the catch-all way that all those listings are mapped in Los Angeles. Some people have them in the description, some people have them in the subdivision. But one thing that we do have the ability to do in those cases is we can actually just draw a map around where the physical boundaries of the neighborhood are to make sure that we're targeting the right listings in the right area. And, similarly, we may have to use that kind of methodology for neighborhoods that have really commonly used names like, Riverside or Oak Ridge or something like that, where in a specific, larger metropolitan area, there may be multiple neighborhoods that use that kind of naming convention. And it may be that like you're operating in one particular part of this market, and you know that's just kind of part of the your local knowledge. You only know of the one Riverside. You're not thinking about the others. Um, so that's one of those things where I have to kind of like get dialed in and figure out, all right, which of these areas are they talking about? And I can do other kind of filtering like, oh, it's in these 2 zip codes with this keyword. That gives us the neighborhood that they're after. So that is kind of a more in-depth approach that we sometimes have to use in the launch process if we have specific neighborhoods that aren't clearly defined in the feed, but we want to make sure that when we're driving traffic to the page based on the areas that you're targeting and the searches that we're trying to go after, we're showing them the most relevant results.
Well, you've just floored
Hearing,
James. James couldn't take it anymore. He was like, "This is too amazing." So, what's
wait,
interesting? Yeah, sorry.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think here. Oh, wow. And now you
Yeah,
made
he's
James
like, I'm
mad. He
gone. I'm
left.
gone entirely.
Jeez. All right.
All right.
All right, James.
All right.
Oh,
So
and
what I was
now
going to
he's
say
messaging us.
is,
I was saying a recent launch, just hearing all of that makes me think of a recent unnamed competitor launching a totally AI automated suite for advertising. You know, like that kind of expertise is the stuff that can't exist with that type of system. And your lead gen is something, you know, people aren't buying houses in 2 weeks. People are buying houses in months. So by the time you realize that the AI doesn't know what it's doing, you know, you're 6 months in the hole. So I think that's a really cool example to me of the difference that you get from a company like CINC who actually invests in the people who are running the campaign in a manner more so than streamlining their jobs away with AI.
oh, Harry, hot
Yeah,
take,
hot
throwing
take.
it out there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was just going to say that, like, so we've built all these tools and it makes things go much, 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 much faster to do these. But like the kind of like the grunt work, like before you would have to manually like, oh, how many houses are for sale in this neighborhood? Oh, okay, then you go, and it would take like it could literally take hours. So the tools has shortened it, but it only goes to a certain level. In which case, like what Eric's talking about, this is a lot of work. Like what he's doing, it's like, and it's so easy to just say, that's good enough. It's good enough. It's fine. It's fine. I know there's around 60 homes for sale in such and such a neighborhood, or plan communities can be tricky in the Southwest. So like I know there's like 60 houses, there's 20 here. That's fine. It's fine. It's otherwise I'm gonna have to go and figure out what the zip codes are and like doing the little thing, like what he's saying, it's complex. It takes lots and lots of time, but what we just said before about the conversion rates, well, you're going to get twice as many leads in the area, which is your favorite area. So, you know, it's worth the extra step. But it's because the other stuff has been automated. You're able to like the things that you can it is impossible to automate. We're able to dedicate the time to do that.
I have two things. The first one is if James comes back, everyone be quiet like we've been waiting for him this whole time.
I
Oh,
don't know what
good, you're
happened.
back. He sent a message. He said something happened to his computer. James got a new computer and I got a new computer. Mine's working great. James is doing things, and that's got Dan on the fence about whether or not he should get a new
I'm not getting
computer.
a new computer. I like my old computer. It works. It works great.
You're a masochist. It's
You're to
missing
keep the
several
5-year-old
keys.
computer. It's great.
Yeah. Um, okay, well, we did get some good questions from signups. Should we go into them? A couple of them we're around launching accounts, targeting, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Sure.
All right. This was one I thought was interesting. This is a client that's launching at the time, they were launching soon. They had questions about market saturation. So they were launching in the Dallas area, and they listed a bunch of different smaller neighborhoods. I can get the list if needed, but I think just in general, listed a bunch of different smaller neighborhoods within Dallas and also Dallas as a target area. And so I thought there were two interesting parts of that question. The first is market saturation in general. And then the client specific question was, would Dallas be the most saturated? So, you know, when you talk about saturation, is it you've got a lot of different neighborhoods running within Dallas, and then Dallas itself? Is that like, I guess just talk about that and how you guys determine that. Because I think, you know, market saturation it's real, but in online advertising, it's become more of a myth as Meta's bought Threads and Google has updated their search engine results pages to be able to place more ads. So,
Do you want to comment, Eric?
I can
anyone?
if you'd like me to.
Just throwing it out there, guys.
Well, okay, so
Figured.
specifically with like market saturation, I mean, it's not something you really have direct control over, right? Like you can't determine how many of your competitors are going to operate in a given space. And if Dallas is the market that you work in and you want online leads, it's is it going to be through us? Is it going to be through a competitor? Or is your competition going to be using online lead generation as well? If it's all coming from Google Ads, it doesn't particularly matter which platform it's with because the search volume in each of those markets is going to be the same. And so whether they're on, team green or team yellow or team blue, whatever it is, like that money is still entering the marketplace. Those ads are still showing up regardless of where they're coming from. And if you're a realtor that needs leads in Dallas, like it's the sitting on the bench is not the strategy, right? So it's not something where we can have active control over like what cost per lead are we going to expect out of this area? If we're launching people here, are we going to discourage people to just not enter the space at some point? Well, no, that's where all these other micro-targeting strategies come into place. And that's part of the conversation that we have to have with each client because, as I said, when you're targeting a broad geo like Dallas, there will be some good leads, there will be some not as good leads, but we can't rely exclusively on really small neighborhoods because you don't want to be missing out on the good leads you could be getting if you're going after a larger, higher in the funnel area. We want to try to drive that consistency, build that market relevance, drive your CPL down over the weeks and months over time. You don't accomplish that by only going after small areas and just hoping that your campaign gets relevant in 6 to 12 months versus what you could achieve in 6 weeks. So, I don't really know that like bowing out and saying that the landscape is too competitive is really the strategy. It's, you've got to get in the mix. We've got to talk about what your priorities are. If we have like broader scope things and we have that conversation 1, 2, 3 months down the line and you're like, look, the Dallas leads are really not doing it for me. Like the quality's not there. We have other strategies in addition to other more specific neighborhoods and subdivisions and stuff. We can go after uh, niche property terms uh, within a larger geo, which also help demonstrate more of that intent over time. If somebody's looking for, a gated home in Dallas or a home with a pool or like a luxury condo or something, like that's somebody who's more in touch with what they want. Again, the search volume is not going to be nearly as high as a broad search like homes for sale in Dallas, but the lead quality is going to help make up for that. And so that blended approach is going to kind of help you establish a healthier campaign that's going to help you avoid just exclusively competing on the most expensive keywords and placement times and things that higher level of saturation starts getting us to worry about in terms of campaign performance. That kind of balanced approach is what keeps you competitive when you're getting lead generation through CINC.
And we don't usually, we used to kind of say like, oh, we're not accepting any more people in like a handful of cities. And that was just because of the way Google used to display their advertising, especially on desktop devices. You could tell.
But tell him what the cutoff was, because I think that is interesting. What would make you close the market?
Oh
Do
gosh,
you remember? I remember.
it was I spent a lot of time doing it. Was the aggregate search impression share of all the specific uh, sites in a submarket. So it'd be like, oh yeah, well we have like if there's too many CINC sites, you would see like, oh, they're all CINC sites here. But so it's like that looks pretty
So
bad.
it was, but I think it was the likelihood of 2 CINC ads showing up in a market. And I mean, you talk
Yeah.
about the data that CINC has. Do you think other companies were doing that at the time? I
No,
can't
they
imagine.
didn't care. So, but now they have well, Google I think has added their at some point Google's just gonna be ads. They're gonna be like, it's gonna be all ads and AI. So I think we all know that. Like, okay. So at some point it might be just CINC ads, because you can kind of tell some of our keyword things. But yeah, exactly. So yeah, what Eric's saying is like if they don't go with us, they're going to go with someone else, which is going to make it more crowded. There's no sort of like first mover advantage. Like, oh wow, there's already a whole bunch of people in this market. My time has passed. Shoot, I wish I would have done it 4 years ago, 4 years ago, or whatever. As they say with planting a tree, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. So,
Great delivery.
yeah, well, yeah, it's
Good work.
I'm very passionate about trees. So, So anyway, so that's
Yeah,
So that's all I have to.
I
That's all
love
I have to
getting
say
asked
about that.
I love getting asked the question about saturation because I think it really does play into the hyper local. I mean, if your market is saturated, don't you want sync running your ads? Like if your market is saturated, don't you want those hyper local ads in your campaign? And that's what's gonna separate you, is those longer tail searches that other agents in the area don't have because,
Like
they
in
don't even
Dallas,
hyper local, bro.
there's probably around 500
I got a
different
shirt.
submarkets that we micro targets within that submarket to that we advertise. There's some really exciting videos where I count down the ones that generate the most leads, and it's like in a lot of the cities, it's not actually the city itself. It's like a lake or it's a
Yeah.
Buckhead is Eric mentioned is a huge. It's that might be number one. I'm not sure what the number one in the Atlanta area is. It might be Lake Lanier, but it might be Buckhead. They're probably 1 and 2. So
There was
which
a
are
lot
not
of
Atlanta.
consternation.
Atlanta doesn't generate that many leads.
Right.
So it's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, got a new fun question. I'm trying to. So, yeah, okay, so we did get a few questions again around wanting to target really specific areas with a launch. I think we've talked about that a lot. The whole idea there is just a good balance of lead flow. So we want to get as many of those hyperlocal leads as we can, but that's a supplement. Not the what? That's the pickle, not the ham sandwich. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Anyone know what I mean? Okay.
I mean,
I'm not
I've
gonna
never
move
heard
on.
that analogy before, but
I just made
I
it up.
understand it. That's yeah,
Gonna go viral.
right.
Um, okay. So one of the things that that we talk about a lot, at least internally, and we got some questions around it, is this idea of a ramp up period when a new campaign starts. So my understanding is that generally a campaign's going to do better in month 2 than in month 1. Um, and that's specifically on search. We actually see a lot of times the opposite on social. And one of the strategies for bringing social cost per lead down is what we call refreshing an ad set or basically duplicating it and restarting it, which resets all the audience feedback and that kind of stuff. Um, and that's another reason that diversifying ad spend makes sense to keep good lead flow. But what is that ramp up period? How is there an average length of time? And why is it happening? And what should someone that just launches maybe expect?
Yeah, so some another thing that kind of makes lead generation, I wouldn't say completely unique to us. Other advertisers do this as well, but for, you know,
Probably not as good though, right?
of course not. Um,
Yeah.
Now, clients coming from bigger shops where there's kind of this almost expectation where there's like a buy-in, and instead of like bidding through the actual ad network, you're bidding with the service that you're subscribed to get leads. There's this kind of notion of there's a big pool of leads and they're sort of divvied out depending on what you're bidding. With what we do is we're creating a new account and campaign, ad groups and ads, keyword lists, everything. It's based off of our best practices, but they're all unique to each client. So every campaign is basically starting fresh on Google. You are a new entity to them. And so everybody kind of starts at this baseline level of like basic relevance. And that's kind of the period when your costs are going to be the highest for advertising because uh, Google's entire search model is based on promoting the content that's most relevant for the searches that are happening on their search engine. And so to promote that, to maintain that integrity, to keep them as like the premier search engine used on the market, they have to make sure that they're driving the most relevant content. And so when you're starting a new ad campaign, that relevance hasn't been established. So Google is having to take a chance on your content to figure out, okay, is this relevant to the search terms that are being used? And they determine that through several different ways. The algorithms have changed over the years, but the three basic guiding principles are: how relevant is the ad text that you're using to the search terms that are being targeted? Um, how much time are people spending on the site when they get there? And how often are the ads actually getting clicked on versus when they're not? So Google looks at all that, and that does kind of play into what we were talking about before with like people being able to comparison shop when they get on your site, and so more listings tends to generate higher conversion rates. So if someone lands on a page and there's 300 plus listings available, Google is monitoring how much time you're spending on the site, interacting, clicking on properties, things like that. That helps kind of promote that relevance score. Back in the day, it used to kind of be called quality score. That's kind of a dubious metric now. They've kind of moved away from that. The point is, what they're looking at is the same kind of criteria to determine that relevance. And so over time, Google aggregates the relevance based on each of those sessions that people are engaging with the content that you've directed them to with your ads. And if they're determining like, oh, hey, this content is relevant for the search homes for sale in Dallas, then your ads are going to show up more often because Google wants to promote that content that they feel is being more relevant to their user base. So as that time progresses, the amount of money we have to spend from your marketing budget on each click on those ads goes down because they want to incentivize that higher quality content. If, I'm running a real estate page and I'm bidding for terms like hammers for sale, well, you're going to get absolutely crushed by like Lowe's and Home Depot because that actually matters. Like they don't want to have random stuff showing up for searches that are unrelated. Um, and in a similar vein, we try to improve lead quality by using really comprehensive negative keyword lists to filter out things that are less relevant to clients like you all, to make sure that we're avoiding kind of those lower quality searches or things that are adjacent to real estate but don't really matter for buying and selling a home, that kind of stuff. Um, but all of that gets pulled together to determine like how to best improve your relevance over time. And so in that first month, you may look at a marketing report and your CPL is super high and you're like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" Like this is way higher than I expected. And that's very normal because as I said, all of these accounts are brand new to Google. And so they're kind of having to, you know, they're financially incentivized to give you that opportunity to show up, but they want to make sure that they're making their money in the process. So generally speaking, with average budgets in a typical market, that ramp up period can take 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. There's no real hard and fast number that applies to everybody. It's really a function of search volume and how much budget we're moving through in a month. There's no like specific ratio that's like, oh, if you're spending this and you're getting this number of clicks per month, this is how long your ramp up period will be. That's really not how it works. At the end of the day, these are human beings conducting these searches. Every day, the volume is going to be different. Every searcher is going to be different. Their intent is going to be different. So we just kind of give people these basic guidelines. That said, if your CPL is really high in the first month and in the second month, it's just as high, that's probably indicative of a problem. Our team tries to look at stuff like that, stay ahead of it. We have lots of robust reporting that lets us know when things are not where they should be. And that's a process that every new client, every new campaign, every new platform has to go through. Um,
Well,
Typically
well, I
we
was
kind
gonna
of hit
say
that
that I
baseline
think
in
it's
two
around a
months.
90-day ramp up is like when are the sales folks give lead estimates for new clients. I think it's like a 90-day ramp up. Like they try to um, give us a buffer, but
Right.
it's 90 days, and it's twice as high. So for the first 90 days, it's twice as high as what the mature cost per lead is for a market. So it's usually a lot less than 90 days. And as Eric said, if it's not going down, like we have to like kind of take proactive measures. And I have a whole bunch of accounts that I'm looking at right now, which launched a month and a half ago with frustratingly high cost per lead. So I'm adding a whole bunch of ad groups and niches and stuff like that. And those are the kind of things that we
Hyperlocal.
do
It's
lower it.
yeah, it's not uncommon to see an account, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, like in from month one to month two, the cost per lead come down 30%, mostly because that cost per click is coming down so drastically, but also because we're doing those optimizations, like Dan was just saying, adding in new areas, those niches, things that improve the conversion rate, so it drives down that cost. And then from month two to month three, for it to drop another 20 to 30%. And that's why Dan's saying like it can be twice as expensive in month one than what we would see in month three or four. Obviously, at some point it's going to balance out, and we're going to get where we're going, right? It's not just going to keep dropping 30% indefinitely. Man, I wish, yeah. If we
Sounds
figure
pretty
that out,
good.
we will let you.
Yeah.
We'll hold another webinar and tell you about it, right? But
No,
that
we
being
won't let you know. Let's close the doors. Go sell houses.
right, we won. We beat Google, but that relevance and that maturity of the campaign is why we'll see that.
Yeah, and that's
So, go ahead.
well, just to kind of sum up, I mean, that's why we use that balanced approach, right? Like I've talked about this before. Like if we're trying to establish that relevance on terms that don't have a lot of search volume, that ramp up period is longer because ultimately it's a numbers game. It's how many times your ad's getting clicked on, how many opportunities are you giving Google to establish how relevant you are for those search terms. So having that balanced approach really helps shorten that, and having increased budget to be able to put in to create more opportunities for those ads to show up are the more direct ways of shortening that ramp up period.
And one more thing on there, I promise I'll kick it back to you, but a lot of the people who are listening might not be brand new clients to CINC. They might be out of that ramp up period by now. But one thing to know about that is if you say, let's add this new market, let's get into this new area. If you want to create new keyword groups and new areas, and we're expanding, you were using Dallas as an example, and it's like, hey, let's create a Fort Worth campaign, or let's create ad groups in Fort Worth. Those new areas now have a ramp up period as well. So don't think you can just like add a new major market and it's going to do as well as the areas that have been in the campaign for 3 years, building that history, that relevance.
Or if you've like got a platform and you've shifted from one market to the other, like your office has moved, or you have another primary that's taking over or something like that. Yeah, if
Right.
it's handled on the ad group level.
So Meta has a concept of the learning phase, which is a certain number of leads, optimizes the campaign once it exits the learning phase. And essentially, I do believe that it exists, but the number of leads is, I believe it's 50 in a certain period of time. So it seems like a way to drive more spend for Meta. Is it possible to exit the ramp up period earlier by spending more on search as it is in theory on Meta?
Well, theoretically, yes. But there is such a thing as like the learning period. Whenever we make big adjustments to spend, or we're constantly making big adjustments to accounts kind of behind the scenes, like the budgets and stuff, but that will throw you back into a learning phase. And
Yeah, any major
I think
update.
it's just I know this is not
Hoopla? Were you about to say hoopla?
hooey. I was going to say hooey.
So close.
I was hearing hoopla as well.
So I'm not really sure, because it's like, well, we did this yesterday and we're doing it tomorrow.
Fantastic.
I think they'll be able to. I think the learning's already been done, and that's
I
what
haven't heard the
what
word.
Eric, like what Eric described is I think what, like, that they know we're good people. It's a good site. They know they have the metrics on the click-through rate and stuff like that, and the time on the site. They know what we are. So,
Haven't heard hooey since my last trip to the haberdasher.
oh, well, how about that?
All right, it's we're oh, Dan,
No,
what are you gonna
I was
say?
going to segue to Eric. What Eric's other primary role
I'm
is.
about to do that right now.
Okay.
Don't tread on me, Dan, as the settlers said.
Okay.
Treading on me is hooey. So
All
we
right.
are at the end. We are at the end of our time together. It's been magical as always. But Eric, I know Dan. Eric has a special offer from the bottom of his heart that he wants to talk about. It's in that email. Remember Harvey Birdman? Get that thing I sent you to come full circle. But Eric, why don't you tell us or Dan or whoever, tell us what's going on with brand advertising?
Just dropped a little bit of information in the chat for anybody who's interested. As we mentioned at the beginning, I also manage the display marketing initiatives here on the client marketing side. So what that entails is we have a brand advertising service. So unlike search, we're actually trying to drive improved market relevance to the people that have visited your site through display ads. These display ads are served on the Google Display Network. I don't know if they've crossed 3 million just yet, but it's on over 2 million websites that are connected through the Google Display Network. So lots of different sites like news sites, recipe blogs, sports pages, all manner of content out there on the internet. I'm sure you've seen display ads out there. If you engage with like an e-commerce site, looking at a pair of shoes on Zappos or some new tool you need to work on a project around the house, and you start seeing the product showing up in different places on different websites as well as Facebook and Instagram. That's basically you've been targeted by a remarketing pixel, and you're being served those through the display networks on each of those ad providers. So we offer that ability for people to kind of improve their brand awareness, sync clients to people who have visited your site, whether or not they've registered as leads. And we can also, if you opt in, you can target a sphere of influence. So we can take like basically an export of the leads in your sync database, trim it down to the essential information that each of those ad networks needs. They encrypt it, upload it, give us a display audience to serve to. And then we have integrations that update that if you have organic sources or third-party lead gen sources, people that are visiting your site that aren't coming through one of our ad networks. You'll be able to stay kind of top of mind with display ads through those channels as well. Right now, the offer that we've emailed everybody out is you get your first 2 months for free. And additionally, we design ads for you in-house. My team kind of works on providing a lot of different design services. We can follow basic templates and get assets from you, headshots, logos, things like that, and build a suite of ads so that you're eligible to show up on the greatest number of placements that are possible on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. But if you register before the end of the month at that link and use the code on brand, you'll be eligible to get your first 2 months of that service for free. Once we get your information and we build your ad set, we'll provide you with a link to preview them. You can let us know if we need to make any changes or updates or anything like that. And once we get the go ahead from you, you'll start your display campaign and start staying in front of your leads.
Well, all right. 2 free months, Eric.
Heavens to Betsy.
2 free months. And this is really good. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the brand advertising. And especially if you have, like, if you're already spending like $5,000 on advertising, this product is it's pretty cheap. It's like $200 a month. So the bang for the buck is a lot bigger if you have a very high ad spend, because like all those leads you've just generated, 800 leads this month. These 800 people are going to see your face all over the internet. And so it's like, oh, who's this weirdo calling me up? Oh, it's this guy that I'm seeing all over the internet. He must be he must be a pretty great guy. So I'm going to pick up the phone. So there's just the economies of scale. Like if you get a
23
lot of
skidoo.
leads, if you have a lot, and the sphere of influence thing that Eric is talking about is really cool. So if you're moving to a new brokerage, you can upload the sphere and tell people like, hey, or not tell them, but they'll see your new place in the ads because the sphere of influence.
Just gonna show a quick demo. This is an ad set that we worked on just a short while ago. They do have little animations in them to help them stand out on the page.
Can
And
you make it smaller?
well, I can show you all of them if you'd like.
Whoa.
So yeah, as I said, they come in a lot of different placement sizes. That's kind of something that's configured by the people that distribute this content based on what kind of fits how they're displaying their content on their pages. But yeah, we have in addition to a lot of these other sizes, we have several sizes that work on Facebook. These also get populated over to Instagram when we set up those campaigns, as long as you have a page that we can advertise on your behalf. And this is just one example. I didn't want to bore you guys with every single little one that we have, but
No,
just to give you a
that
little
great.
taste of what they look
I'm always
like.
really impressed when I see the
Yeah.
ads.
And
We
Eric, I
got
know
links in the chat. CINCremarketing.com/register. Use the code ONBRAND.
How many impressions is that? Did you mention that?
I didn't. That's a
Or
great question, Harry. Minimum
just in
guaranteed
general?
for the
Yeah.
campaign is 10,000 impressions. That's just kind of a baseline to give us kind of a way to make sure that we're providing value from sending these ads out there. On average, I would say our clients get between 16 to maybe like 24,000. It's all kind of dependent on the size of the audiences we're serving, right? And so those
Mhm.
audiences get built through the lead generation that you're engaged in. So people that have higher budgets tend to have larger audiences and they tend to get more impressions per month. It's a flat fee, $200 a month. Like I said, with the code, you get those first 2 months for free. Decide if you like it and want to keep going. Just reach out to us if you don't. You won't hurt my feelings, but we just want to put that out there. But yeah, so that's across both the Google Display Network, and as I said, if you have a page on Facebook that we can connect to, we'll have you show up there as well.
and that impression count is an impressive number, and like you said, dependent upon how big is the reach, how many the sphere of influence, or the number of leads. But I know you also do a lot of research into avoiding like ad fatigue. Like when you say 24,000, it's not because you showed 10 people the ad 5,000 times, right? I know you put a cap on, or whatever, we can put a cap to make sure that people aren't seeing the ad 100 times a day, because it can have a very adverse effect, right?
Um, yeah, that's kind of more handled automatically by the display networks right now. There is like a setting
Okay.
where if we feel like, you know, it's very rare, but we have gotten feedback from maybe a handful of clients over the number of years that I've gotten this, where they're like, this person feels like they're seeing the ad too much. If you get feedback like that, we do have levers to pull to kind of dial that down. But yeah, the campaigns do the best that they can to make sure that you're not oversaturating somebody and creating like a frustration factor. There's definitely a sweet spot of showing up enough that they remember who you are, but not so much that you're, getting negative feedback
They hate who
associated
you
with your
are.
brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, so
Right?
I don't know if there's any keen-eyed people in the audience, but like I have my little Washington Capitals cup here. And notoriously, I have noticed like during the NHL playoffs that the same advertisers seem to show up in a rotation all throughout the playoffs. And eventually, you do get kind of tired of seeing the same 8 ads over and over again. Google and Facebook are wise to that. So they want to make sure that advertisers like us continue to engage with services without frustrating people. So they try to strike that balance for us. But yes, if you do get any kind of feedback like that, there are ways for us to tone that down if we need to.
Good one. That's no hooey right there. So Man, well, I know what we're gonna do next office hours. Next office hours, all Dan Lot vernacular edition.
Uh,
Um, so get excited.
Heavy sigh.
Get get off my lawn.
Bye.
But yeah, no, so we went over like we always do. We're not good at much, but online advertising and going over on webinars. But we are very good at those two things. Thanks everyone who's been on here today. As always, had a good amount of people that stayed the whole time, which is always great. We appreciate your time and know that it's valuable. Thank you, Eric. A lot of really good information. And, whether you know it or not, Eric has probably worked on your campaign at some point. So
That is true. That is very true.
Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's cool to get his perspective. I appreciate you coming on and answering questions. We'll be putting this out. The number one asked question on every webinar. This is being recorded, and we will add it to our YouTube channel. So again, please smash that subscribe button for us if you have not done so already, so you can be notified when this comes back out. And we will see you next month, unless Dan and James have anything.
No, I think you covered it.
No, sir. Appreciate
Yeah.
everybody's time.
Yeah, thanks very much. This is always my favorite webinar, always the most fun. So we will see you guys next month. It is the second Wednesday every month at 11 a.m. If you loved us, be sure to tell your friends. And if you didn't, just keep it to yourself. But otherwise, we hope to see you next month. Thanks very much. Have a great day.